Welcome to Vikings Happy Hour. You got Myles and myself on tonight, Dave, of course, in the producer chair. We have a fun show for you tonight. Make sure you grab your Lake Monster beer and check it out. We're going to be talking. Myles and I are going to give a little bit of recap on the Colts game since we missed last week. Myles and I actually went to the Giants game this week, so we're going to talk about that a bit and our thoughts on that game. And then, of course, the big ticket item here, talking about the Packers. So again, be sure to grab your Lake Monster beer and or beverage of choice and join us. We'll be back in just a few moments here.
Welcome to Vikings Happy Hour, where we mix our favorite beverage and talk of your Minnesota Vikings. Skol!
Good evening and welcome back to Vikings Happy Hour. We apologize for the 1 week hiatus. I know it was a crazy, hectic week with holiday season, crazy Colts come from behind win, and then of course this last weekend getting to check out the Giants game here. So have a lot to catch up on, a lot to talk about. Myles, how are we doing today? How was your Christmas?
Good. Christmas was good. Like we were saying before the show, it's always fun to watch your kids open gifts, and my kids, three and one, they just enjoyed opening things, so it was good.
It doesn't get much better than that, right? I mean, the look on their faces. What's crazy is, one of my kids is getting really hard to shop for. He's 10. And one of the things he was most excited for was this volume of books that he's really into right now, which he doesn't
Oh,
even
that's
like to
sweet.
read, but he really loves this series of books. And when he opened that up, his grandma got it for him, just elated. So it's always cool to see that, especially things that like aren't, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Superficial, right? Like video
Yeah.
games or computers or iPads, cell phones. He was excited about a book. I was pretty happy about it. Well, we got a lot to cover in tonight's show here, so let's just jump right into it. Like I said in the pre show here, I wanted to just touch base quick on the Colts game. Again, we missed last week. Obviously, huge come from behind win, 33 points. Biggest comeback ever, right? So, can you walk us through just a little bit of your thoughts? How did we get in the hole that bad? Like what happened there, and then what allowed us to kind of make that make history and get back in that game?
Yeah, I think the one thing you saw, I mean, the crazy part about that game, the Colts game, was just how nothing could go right. Just from the jump, special teams, offense, defense, nothing was going right. You're letting it. I'm a huge Matt Ryan fan, but like you're letting the corpse of Matt Ryan go up and down the field on you. It was a rough first half, and offense just couldn't get things going. So I think, and then obviously see the block punt, those types of things. So nothing was going right. It just felt like they weren't up for it. They just didn't seem like they came to play that day. And most weeks, 33 nothing at halftime. That's it. That's a wrap. You're getting backups in, late in the third quarter. Um, but then all of a sudden, it kind of just took one. What the crazy part is, Kirk threw an interception in the third quarter as well, and so you're still like, oh man, like yeah, maybe there's a chance, but I don't think it's going to happen after this. And then they just kept slowly marching their way back. The Colts obviously didn't really have the Colts offense didn't really generate too much against the Vikings defense. It was like a pick six, besides like things like their pick six, their black punt, like those key plays. Um, their offense wasn't too like they weren't killing the Vikings defense too badly. So um, the Vikings defense held strong in the second half to 3 points, and the offense kind of just did the rest. Like they scored on every single drive. What after that Kirk interception? I think it was every drive after that they scored possession, five straight, and so yeah, it's just crazy. I don't. It's really hard to sum up, especially like the emotions aren't where they were a week ago. But
Right.
It was just crazy to watch because this season, out of most seasons, you're thinking even a couple touchdowns, maybe making it 21 to 30 to 30 36. You're still probably thinking, oh, they're not going to be able to, make this final comeback. But this team this year, they're finding those ways, and small things are going their way that haven't in recent history. So it was really fun to watch history be made, and like was said on the screen here, so in the comments. So it was kind of just fun. It was just fun to watch, and I kind of got to a point in the fourth quarter where I was like, even if they don't win, it's still fun to see them come back and make it a fun game. And then they found a way to win.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so I was there that day at the game. I was with my buddy Jeff, and halftime, I mean, place was starting to empty out. The group in front of me was four of them. They waved their hand, said, we're out. See you later. And that was at halftime. The
And
group
you
right
can't
in
blame
front of
anybody,
us.
right? You couldn't
No,
blame
no. I
anybody
mean,
for
there's
leaving at
nothing to
halftime.
stay for. Absolutely. There's nothing to stay for. They gave us no reason to stay. The only reason we stayed is that, to your point, like, we've found ways to at least make things interesting all year. The group in front of me, they left probably after the first drive in the third quarter. And my buddy even was just like, "Hey, do you want to leave? Do you want to leave?" Like, he asked like three times. I'm like, you know what? Let's just stay. Like, until we know we're for sure out. I know it's highly improbable, but you know what? Why don't we stick it out? I mean, we pay all this money to go to these games anyway. Might as well just sit it out.
Right.
And yeah, it was fun to watch that comeback. I mean, it was obviously very like shock. I was in shock the rest of the day, which which was kind of interesting. My wife's like, "Did you even have fun at the game?" I'm like, I mean, yeah, I did. I'm just like, I'm still like,
It was
just
insane.
can't believe
Yeah.
it. But I will give kudos to the defense. They were put in some really crappy spots, right? I mean,
Mhm.
a fake punt that doesn't go well, goes through the hands of Naylor. The blocked punt was that for a touchdown? I think it was. Um,
I
and
think
and
so.
then the
Yeah.
pick six and stuff. So I mean, obviously we let up 33 points, but if you look at like the amount of points we actually let up, like fairly to that defense in terms of the Colts actually getting the ball, driving all the way 3/4 of the way down the field and scoring, it was pretty minimal. It was a lot of, interception return for a touchdown, punt return for a touchdown, short fields to work with to get field goals or touchdowns. We were able to kind of stay pretty strong there. So in the second half, when we stopped making the mistakes, that allowed us, the defense kept playing strong. That allowed us to come back.
Right.
So again, a lot of fun. It was good to see that grit. But obviously, those 2 weeks ago. So then this next week, tougher opponent, one that I think would be a better, kind of litmus test in terms of where we're at as a team. Just given the Giants are a playoff team at the moment, and I think if they win this weekend, they actually solidify their spot in the playoffs.
Mm.
So we were at the game together, Miles. Tell
Yep.
me a little bit about that experience. How did you enjoy the stadium being the first time you were there? And then give us some just comments on the game and your thoughts on the game and how we played.
Yeah. So my wife and I decided to go to the game for Christmas Eve, thanks to you and the person you knew that was selling the tickets. And so my wife and I got to experience US Bank for the first time. I've been in the Metrodome. I've been at TCF. I even worked across the street from US Bank for like 4 years, and I never went to a game. I don't know why. And finally decided to make that move, and it was great. Like, that stadium is amazing. Arguably like one of the. I've only been to a handful of stadiums in the league, but it's amazing. The seats are great. We were behind the end zone where most of the action happened, actually, too, which was a lot of fun. But really enjoyed it. The atmosphere is amazing. The whiteout was a little. I mean, it was okay. Like, I thought the whiteout in itself was okay. Like, I don't like. I think it was a cool concept. Don't get me wrong. But I kind of would have. I wore like just a regular white hoodie. I should have just gone in a regular Vikings hoodie. But it is what it is. Nothing too crazy. Um, but no, I think the game in itself kind of encapsulates the entire season for this Minnesota Vikings team. This Giants game was like the perfect, like you said, a really good it was a litmus test, but it was also just like where everything has gone for them. They'll get up early. They got up 10 nothing, and you're like, oh man, maybe there's a chance that they could it feels like most weeks you're like, oh man, maybe the Vikings could put away a team early. Nope. Giants had to come back tied up 10-10, even take the lead late. Our Vikings then regain the lead. Those types of things then give up a late lead, needing some miracles to happen just to even get a chance to score at the end. So, yeah, I don't know. Like it was fun to be able to watch it from the like field level. The especially the end zone shots and be able to see all the plays work themselves out. It's kind of like watching film, which I'm used to doing. So it's a lot of fun to be able to watch that and see routes develop, see old linemen make some cool plays. Like Christian Darrisaw, I saw someone make a comment that Darrisaw didn't play that well. He played really well. Darrisaw looked like regular Darrisaw. Maybe not as consistent, but he's coming working his way back. But that dude's so good. Like our tackles we probably have arguably the best tackle duo in the league right now, and that's really great. It's awesome to see. And then Kirk Cousins, the amount of hits that dude's been taking, and being able to bounce back and make plays has been really impressive. And then I can't say anything about JJ that nobody already hasn't said. Dude should be in the MVP conversation. I don't think he'll win it, but he should be in the conversation. It shouldn't be dismissed at all that the impact he's having on a team that isn't even a top 10 offense, but we're 12-3, so that impact is ridiculous. And then lastly, still a little bit worried about the defense, just with the Giants not having any weapons outside of Saquon Barkley. Guys like Isaiah Hodgins and Richie James being able to kind of get open at will was a little frustrating.
Yeah, well, it was funny. Your wife called me out because I'm sitting here dogging on Patrick Peterson because he's letting this Isaiah Hodgins just, do whatever he wanted, right? Slant routes, comeback routes, whatever it was. And then, of course, after I say that comment, he goes and picks the ball off, which, again, I was ecstatic about. So,
right.
Yeah, no, the game was fun. Great atmosphere, as always. Again, yeah, the whiteout, I know it's a college concept. I enjoyed it, I guess, but you almost have to like do something else with it to like make it worth it, and I know we have the skull chant and all that, but if we would have had something else, I know they had a pretty good wave going, but I don't like the wave. So it bothers me, especially when they started the wave when one of their players got hurt. One of our players got hurt. Somebody got hurt.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
it had just started right out.
Yeah, the worst time to do a wave. And then I don't know, it was like all the people in that upper left corner, right? That like they started doing like, let's go Vikings while we're on offense. Like, guys, we got to be quiet. What are we doing? The atmosphere is fine. Again, usually you don't get that. But it was good. As far as the game, defense is still worrisome. It is good to see, I know that O'Connell really put an emphasis on trying to get some younger guys some more opportunities. I know at one point you're like, dude, is Harrison Smith hurt? Because, Metellus was in. And I think that's just part of the rotation. And Metellus was playing well. Obviously, I have to mention this. Asamoah grading out as, I think, the second best player on our defense this week, right behind Danielle Hunter by like 0.1. Forced fumble, fumble recovery, fantastic play. Dude just looks fast and brings energy. He still makes mistakes. I remember seeing one play where, he guessed the wrong gap or something like that, and they were able to break off for not that big of a run, but more yards than if he would have selected the right gap. But overall, playing well, playing fast, playing loose, which I enjoy seeing out of him because, again, when he can get moving, he's one of the more, impactful players on that defense. I think he has the potential, I guess, to be. We have yet to see that because of the limited opportunities.
Right.
But
and with that, one coaching thing that I've always heard and kind of, coaches always say is you'd rather have to dial a guy back than have to try to get him to speed up. And Asamoah is a perfect example of a guy that, he might make some mental mistakes and he might miss a gap. He might shoot the wrong gap, but he's the type of player that you'd rather have to dial him back because you can learn those mental errors with more reps. He'll get rid of those. So his motor, that kind of he's the kind of guy you want in a defense that needs speed, and this defense needs speed, and him being able to bring that and that passion, it's just really fun to watch.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, and then one guy that I mentioned to you during the game when we were watching the game, and I'm going to try to say this right, but is it Usezi O Otomewo? I think is how you say it. I had to look it up.
Yeah,
So,
I'm bad with it
um,
too.
yeah. But anyway, the kid, the D tackle kid out of Minnesota here, the Gophers, again, just getting more reps, more and more reps, more specifically on passing downs. Obviously, we have a bunch of really good players at that
Asezi
position.
Otomowu.
Otomowu. All right. Otomowu. I'll try
Otomowu.
to
Yeah.
remember that.
Yeah, there we go.
So, but yeah, he's also bringing a ton of energy to that pass
Mhm.
rush. And I think it's creating some opportunities for Danielle Hunter and Zadarius Smith to get some one-on-one opportunities as well, which is, again, fun to see. So, granted, the back end of that defense still has a ton of work. And honestly, I know one guy that you had mentioned, Byron Murphy, is a potential free agent candidate we maybe need to go look at. We got to do something to bring some sort of stability. I mean, granted, Peterson has been that stability, but let's get maybe somebody with a little higher ceiling going forward. Again, Peterson's doing great. I'm not dogging him too much here. I know he had a little rough game this past game outside that pick, but for the most part, he's played well this year. So yeah, the game was good. It was discouraging to see that Barkley touchdown come in at the end. You and I both needed it for fantasy, so I don't think either one of us were too upset.
Yeah.
But as long as we won the game, which we were able to do, so that's good.
And the
Awesome.
kick,
So,
and real quick, the kick. Then we'll move to the Packers. But the kick, like, I remember sitting there in my head being like, "What?" I don't think they told us, or maybe they did. I don't remember. I don't remember hearing how far the kick was before he kicked it when we were in the stadium. But they kicked it to us because we're the end zone. They kicked it our way, and I knew it was like 60 plus. I didn't know the exact yardage, being where we were in the stadium. Knew it was 60 plus, so I was expecting it to be left or right, or maybe just a little short. And then he kicked it because they brought a guy back just to return it in case he came up short, and he cleared that by at least a couple yards. Like, I bet that it could have been good, maybe 63, 64. That's where
yeah.
we were because we were in the back end zone, so you could see clear. He cleared that thing with plenty of room. It was really impressive.
Yeah, I think it maybe had 2 yards, and then it
Yeah,
probably would have
yeah,
hit the. So from 63, we're looking at a doink and hoping for the best, right? But
yeah.
yeah, it was quite a. I remember watching that ball go up, and I'm like, get here, get here, get here! I just kept yelling that, and it made us all the way there. So no, that was a lot of fun. Awesome. So that sets up. So obviously, we're watching Christmas Day games, and the Packers, I think, we're playing first game during that. Probably lose that game if Tua doesn't get that concussion. But he did, and he started playing quite poorly, and Packers were able to create that win for themselves. So makes it all that more important of a game now because the Packers come in a must-win situation against a Vikings team who's, again, coming off another quote-unquote miracle win two weeks in a row. And we need to take care of business, right? We need to chop the proverbial legs off the monster here that is the Green Bay Packers, and the only way to do that is go to Lambeau in relatively decent weather. I mean, obviously it's outside, but I don't know. At least here on this weekend, I think it's going to be like in its 30s. So I'm hoping Green Bay is going to be somewhat similar. So
Yeah,
hopefully
looks like it's
that
supposed to
won't
be.
be. Yeah, so hopefully it won't be that much of a factor. But we got to come in against a team that's hungry, fighting for their playoff lives here. Aaron Rodgers, obviously he didn't play or he didn't practice today, knee injury apparently. So we'll see. I'm assuming he won't miss the game. So I haven't heard anything that it's too strenuous. But and you got Christian Watson coming up. You got Romeo. Is it Dobbs? Who has come
Yeah.
back and
Well,
played
so
well last week.
Watson left the game like halfway through the game against the Dolphins, right after halftime, I think. and he didn't practice today because of a hip injury. So we might not have to. He's been pretty good for them, and
Yeah.
he's that like dynamic receiver. Obviously, he's a rookie, so I think there's ways that they wouldn't have to be as worried. But he's a dynamic receiver that worries you a little bit with that speed down the field that these DBs have struggled against this year. So if he's out,
Yep.
that could be pretty big.
Yeah, I mean, and that's going to be a key thing that all of us should be watching days up to the game here. But you got Aaron Jones a little banged up. You got
I know
AJ
my fantasy
Dillon.
team.
Yeah, right. AJ Dillon, he's playing, pretty well. Um, Lazard's out there, their defense is getting healthier ish, right? So, I think it's going to be a little bit of a different game than the first game we saw this year at the bank here. So give us your thoughts, kind of what are some of the keys to victory? How do we slow down, or I guess stop this Green Bay offense? And what are ways that we can knife this defense a little bit and create some wins for ourselves there?
I mean, I think they're gonna try to get the ball out quickly. I think that's gonna be what they want to do. They're gonna probably see some play action, and I think you're gonna see the Rodgers want to get the ball out quick. But I also think they're gonna try to get them on some double moves. Allen Lazard, Dubs, who's it? I'm trying to even think besides Watson, who else they have it at wide receiver right now.
Cobb,
They're kind of a Cobb, who's Randall Cobb, but
they cut
um,
Watkins. So
yeah, they did cut Watkins. Yeah, so like outside of those guys, and then obviously Robert Tonyan's a pretty solid tight end. Um, it's more about like how can this team effectively handle I think the quick passing game. Can they stop guys like Allen Lazard from winning those quick slant routes? And then obviously those guys are good at blocking. The one thing the Packers receivers are good at is blocking, and they like to do the quick screens to the receivers and the backs. So I do wonder if we can make sure that those aren't big staples for Rodgers this week. And then obviously Rodgers really thrives, especially at home, off of mistakes. And we can't have any mental mistakes. Can't get caught with 12 men on the field. Can't get caught, jumping off sides on hard counts. Those types of things. Those are the things that like small plays like that get Rodgers going is what makes it really hard, like slow him down. And so if the Vikings can, do better with the mental mistakes, making sure that they're not giving up some big plays, I think they should be okay because this Packers offense has been so up and down, and obviously injuries and things like that. So I think the Vikings defense, yeah, I think if they keep everything in front of them, kind of with that staple of the Ed Donatel defense, I think they'll be okay. Just don't have no crippling mistakes.
yeah, absolutely. And on our offensive side of the ball here, what can we do to make sure that we're keeping this defense on edge? Obviously, they got a couple, a pretty good front seven that can create some chaos in the backfield. Hopefully, we have Bradbury back, which it's crazy. I never thought I'd say that. But hopefully we get
I don't
him
think
back.
we're going to see him back. I don't think we're going to see him
Yeah,
back to the playoffs.
yeah, and that's probably the smart move, right? But
Yeah, yeah.
so, well, what can we do to help mitigate that? What can we do to create wins for JJ? I'm assuming Alexander is going to be pleading for that one-on-one coverage with him. So what can we do?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that we can do is TJ Hawkinson, KJ Osborne, Adam Thielen. Like, yes, Justin Jefferson needs to get his. Like, that's we've obviously got to the point where JJ's like he's unguardable. He's the guy that it doesn't matter, just give him the ball. But you also need other guys to complement him as well. And we've seen guys like TJ Hawkinson against the Giants have a monster game. Monster game. We didn't even touch on that, but he was the best we've seen him in a Vikings uniform. And then KJ Osborne against the Colts the week before going off and helping lead that comeback. And so like those guys are really huge keys to this offense and getting this offense going. But I also think Dalvin Cook and getting the run game a little bit more effective. They don't need to rely on the run as in terms of previous regime where the run was it was to set up the run to set up the pass. They've obviously used the pass as their staple. The pass game is a staple of this offense, which it should be. But I think they need to be more effective in the run game. They've struggled, especially against the Giants. Kind of struggled to get that run game going. I think the Packers are a little bit more susceptible to giving up some more explosive plays on the ground, and I think Dalvin Cook is primed to have, one of those games in 30-degree weather, you get him rolling a little bit more. I think that could be something that helps just open things up a little bit more as well.
Yeah, I'm really hoping for a big game out of Dalvin Cook. I think that and running game, right? Like, and it's I know I had thought at the game that Chandler was available, but you had educated me that he wasn't. But he did come off of IR now, finally,
He's
right?
back. Yeah, he's back now. Yep.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting to see if they incorporate him at all, at least just to kind of a change of pace. I think he brings a little bit more um, spark, I guess, than like an Alexander Madison did. But of course, you and I dog on Madison at the game, and then he comes up with a couple big runs. So,
Right.
so
Right.
again, it's one of those things where maybe we should just start dogging people and they start playing better, because it happened both. The two players I was dogging at the game, it happened to play well. So. Yeah, so I'd really like to get this run game going. I think that that'll help, one, keep any sort of momentum that Aaron Rodgers can create at home
Yep.
on the sidelines. But two, we need to. I think our offense just needs this. Just from going into the playoffs, we've really struggled over the last few weeks being able to run the ball effectively. Of course, we'll have like one big hitter here and there, but just
Right.
consistently being able to run the ball. And when I say run, I don't necessarily mean it has to be a handoff. Again, like you had mentioned, what the Packers do well is getting that screen game going. We tried that screen pass to Justin Jefferson twice during that Giants game with
Yeah.
like -1 yard result. And I'm sitting here just kicking and screaming like, what the heck are we doing? And then, game on the line, we do that. Well, we did it from the slot versus from the way outside, but we do a screen pass to him. He takes it, however many yards, 20 yards or whatever, just to get us with an opportunity at a 61-yarder. So if we can get some more plays like that even, or screens to Dalvin Cook that are effective and that are working, those work as an extension of the pass game as well, or as an
Yep.
extension of the run game as well. So I think that's going to be critical. If you're just trying to sit back and do a step back passing game against these Packers, I don't think that's going to be the best way to be able to effectively move the ball against them. Not saying that Justin Jefferson won't be able to win one-on-one against Alexander, because we've seen him do it, time in and time out. But again, Hawkinson can come up big, and Osborne and Thielen and all these guys. But with that pass rush and our offensive line, I know we're getting better on the tackles, but that inside is still prime for a penetration there. And with Kenny Clark playing well, is he healthy? I haven't heard anything on him.
I think so, but I'm not
Okay.
sure. But
Well,
one big area of a guy that's not Keyshawn Nixon, their new returner.
yeah,
That dude's been he got hurt as well in the Dolphins game. That dude is legit.
yeah.
Kind of came out of nowhere, but he's been a legit one of the better returners in the league. And the Vikings have kind of been hit or miss the last handful of weeks in terms of special teams. So not having a guy like that and explosive in the return game could be big as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean,
So
as long as we can.
real quick, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was
I
going
was
to say,
just
as
gonna
long
say
as we
someone.
can do a good job of, sorry, Myles, as long as we can
You're
do a
good.
good job of mixing it up and keeping it relatively balanced. I know I was listening to Kevin O'Connell talk about this in one of the pressers. I think I was listening to it yesterday, that, he really wants to have a balanced attack, but sometimes the game plan doesn't call for that and whatnot. And I totally understand that. But as balanced as we can possibly be, especially against a team like this with a defense that can really create havoc in the backfield, we don't need anyone getting hurt. That's the big thing, right? We don't want,
Right.
as you had mentioned in the last couple of weeks, Kirk Cousins is taking a beating, and we can't do anything without him. Like, we're not going to be able to,
Yep.
we can't make a playoff run without Kirk Cousins. So we have a playoff spot secured. Number 2 seed is going to be very important, I think, and we'll get into that here in a second. We need him upright. I'd rather not sacrifice, trying to make these, step back and throw the ball 50 times this week just to win the game, if that means that Kirk Cousins is taking a beating, because again, this front seven is pretty legit for the Packers. So,
Yep. 100%. I wanted to touch on there's a quick question in the chat about the whiteout skull TYA catch 84. We touched on it earlier, but just wanted to rehash. I thought the whiteout at the game on Sunday was cool. Saturday was cool, but I mean I don't think I wasn't like, oh my gosh, they got to do this every year type of thing. I thought it was a cool concept, but I was saying, and I think Mary even said in the comments like she missed the purple, and I kind of missed being a part of like wearing like all the different Vikings purple and gold and those things too. So it was a cool concept. I think I think it'd be cool to do it in the future again, but I don't think it's something that needs to be a staple.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. So I brought up the 2 seed, right? So we're currently
Yep.
locked in at the 2 seed, but it's not locked, right? Or we're in the 2 seed, but it's not locked. We have the Niners breathing down our neck.
Only way
Looking
we
at
can
their
lock the
schedule,
2 seed is if we win out.
win out or they lose one and we
Right.
win
If
one.
they lose one, we as long as we don't have the same record or they obviously don't have a better record. But if we have the same record,
And
then they own the tiebreaker.
they would own it based on conference record, which is the second
Mhm.
tiebreaker behind head to head. So, um,
Right.
so looking at that, what are your thoughts? Do you think we can get that second seed? Do you think we can win out? How important is that second seed? Because obviously we're all guaranteed a home playoff game, but now we're looking at playing in Santa Clara, versus playing in Minnesota for that divisional round if we both win.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think getting the highest seed possible is always the best scenario. It's so hard to play matchups and wanting to like, oh, we want to get this specific match, we want that. No, I think to your point, you want to host as many playoff games as you can, and I think obviously the 1 seed's the priority. Everybody wants the 1 seed. You want that extra bye, but if you can't get the 2 seed, you want the 2 seed because you want everything else to roll through your stadium. You want to be home because the one thing that we know with this team, and I think that we might see them struggle with, is the weather could play an impact. Maybe not in Santa Clara, but if you have to go to Philadelphia, you have to go to. We wouldn't have to go to Green Bay, but you know what I mean. Like if you have to go to some of these outdoor places. Luckily, the NFC this year with the seeding, the Vikings shouldn't have to do that. Besides the Eagles, but yeah, I mean, just wanting to be having that home field advantage, having your fans there, you get to control more the tempo, control the game atmosphere. I think is always more important than worrying about like who your matchup is. So for me, I think it's important to get that 2 seed.
Yeah, I agree, and again, it's yeah. Well, we already know what the matchups are going to be, right? We don't know who we're playing week 1, but we know that if hypothetically we win out, Niners win out, we're sitting at the 2 seed, they're sitting at the 3 seed. If we win and they win, that's the team we're playing, right? And I don't want to play them in Santa Clara. That fan base can
Right,
get
right,
loud as well.
100%.
They're a team that feeds off of that energy. We're a team that feeds off the energy of our home crowd. So if we can get that, and again, we're likely looking at probably the final 4 teams, and obviously it's playoffs. Anything can happen, and it's any given Sunday, right? But we're probably looking at us versus the Niners week 2 if we can win, and then the Eagles versus the Cowboys. Well, there's no one saying that either of those teams can't win. We're looking at maybe an
Right.
NFC Championship game at home, right?
Yep.
I mean that's so, and we're only going to be able to get there if we're probably home for that divisional round because that Niners team's no joke. So I
Yeah.
think it's very important. I know that there was talk of some people saying, well, will KOC rest some starters? Given the fact that we're locked in at worst at the 3 seed. I don't think that it's worth it. I don't think it's worth us being trying to do that. So
100%.
we had a comment. I think it was Mary. Somebody asked, how did we feel about the time management of that last game? Any comments there? I don't really remember any like big hiccups there, but again, you're in the heat of the stadium and everything's going on there. So
Yeah.
sometimes you just kind of overlook those kind of things.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if the end of the game scenario was pretty rough. They got really lucky with the obviously kicking, being able to hit the 61 yarder, but they basically killed any realistic chance to kick a game-winning field goal. Obviously, they did, but they should have been a better situation than a 61-yarder. And if JJ doesn't get that first down, which he barely got, they don't get to clock it and the game runs out. You go to overtime, those types of things. So I think KOC could have handled that last drive a little bit better from a clock management standpoint. But again, they're growing pains. Like the fortunate thing, I said this going into the season, the Vikings were going to have growing pains because you have a new coaching staff, new offense, new defense. We've been fortunate that those growing pains have still been able to work through those growing pains in wins. And so those growing pains aren't resulting in crippling losses. And so I think that's a fortunate scenario. So I'm not going to freak out about it. I think it's something that needs to improve, but it's not something that I'm like overly worried about.
Yeah, now that you say that, I do remember you complaining about not using a timeout when we should have or something. I'm like, well, it was a horse apiece is kind of what I said, but thinking about it, it was like, oh no, we definitely should have. All right, very good. So last thing I want to just quick touch base on. You had kind of brought it up earlier. JJ needs to be in the conversation. Can he get a vote at least? Cooper Kupp did not get a vote last year after winning the Triple Crown, but I think this season, although we don't have as many touchdowns as Kupp had last year, from a yardage perspective, from that perspective, he's having a better season. So let's fast forward 2 weeks. We're sitting here, and JJ.
He only has 8 touchdowns.
Yeah, well, he has I think 1 rushing one as well, so 9 total. But he hasn't been like a touch.
Just like surprises me a little bit.
Well, we spread the ball around quite a bit in the red zone. I mean, Thielen's got a couple, Hawkinson's got a couple, KJ's got a couple. So I mean, we've definitely spread that love around a little bit. But let's fast forward 2 weeks. Let's say he eclipsed the all-time record for receiving yards by Calvin Johnson. Let's maybe even say he was able to sneak his way into that 2,000-yard club. Does he garner that MVP vote? And for perspective here, right? Receivers never won, right? But when Adrian Peterson ran for 2,000 yards, he was the MVP. So is it possible? Let's say hypothetically, because obviously as it stands right now, he isn't going to beat Patrick Mahomes. So he just won't. Or Jalen Hurts probably. So if he were to eclipse the all-time record, if he was maybe even to eclipse the 2K mark, would that be any sort of cause for, hey, we need to vote for this guy?
So this is why I said I think JJ needs to be in the conversation. Now, as value, so Justin Jefferson is the most valuable player to this Vikings team. Now, but the difference between this is why positional value. So this is why like the MVP in itself needs to just be a quarterback-driven type of award, and then the offensive player of the year award needs to be like a position player. Like they need to like do away with MVP because it's always just going to be quarterback essentially. Who's the best quarterback that year? But that just shows you how important and valuable quarterbacks are. Justin Jefferson is the most important player on the Vikings offense. But at the same time, you can make the argument that without Kirk Cousins, the train doesn't roll at all. Like you don't, the drop off from Kirk Cousins to a Nick Mullins is 6-7 wins probably, right? Like you're a 4-win team right now with Nick Mullins, and that maybe be generous. The Vikings might also be a 4-win team without Justin Jefferson, but I think you'd see that they'd play a better overall football game. They wouldn't be a better team, but they'd be a better team without JJ than they would be a better team without Kirk. That's kind of what I'm trying to say. That's not me saying that JJ isn't important. We know how important he is, but they would have a better chance of winning football games without JJ than they would Kirk. But then, real quick, let me finish the circle here. What you extrapolate that to another quarterback like a Patrick Mahomes, who lost his best receiver, and he's still putting up arguably better numbers than he did with Tyreek Hill. I know he still has Travis Kelce, Juju Smith-Schuster is a good player, those types of things. But you just couldn't make the argument that JJ is more valuable than Patrick Mahomes. Again, I'm not saying Justin Jefferson isn't a top 5 most valuable player in the league right now, because I think he is. But I just think quarterback is just that much more important than the unfortunate situation of Justin Jefferson playing receiver.
So I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm going to play devil's advocate here just a bit. So you had mentioned that we're probably what did you say, 4 or 5 win team?
Something like that. Yeah.
Whatever. Right. Yeah. We definitely have had a few wins caused by Justin Jefferson this year. Right.
100%.
And so hypothetically, you take Kirk Cousins off the team, we're probably a 4 or 5 win team. You take Justin Jefferson off the team, where it's a 4 or 5 win team. Right. Wouldn't that make Justin Jefferson even that much more valuable, because he's able to make that much of an impact at a position that should be less impactful than a quarterback?
Right, but that's why I was saying for our team, for the Vikings, that's why I think him and Kirk are like 1A, 1B, literally right up there with, being the most important players on the team. But it's hard to make the argument that he's more valuable than a Patrick Mahomes. That team. And what I was trying to say with the Kirk situation too is, I still think if you still had Kirk but no JJ, you have a chance to be a 6, 7, 8 win football team than you do without Kirk Cousins. I don't think you have a chance to be 6, 7, 8, 9 win team without Kirk Cousins. You have that chance if you have Kirk Cousins and no JJ, but without Kirk, you don't. That's what I guess that's what I was trying to say. It's not to say that I still think, because of the way the season's played out, without JJ, you're probably looking at 5 wins, but without Kirk, you know what I mean. That's where I was trying to go with it.
Yeah, I mean, and I agree with you for the most part here. I do think he deserves at least a little bit of, at least to garner a vote or two. Which again, Cooper Kupp was not able to.
Just to say he did, or what?
But like logically, I mean, because you're like let's look around the league this year, right? You have Niners, arguably the best team in the league, is being led by a Mr. Irrelevant Brock Purdy. A Taylor Heineke-led Washington Commanders are in a playoff spot right now. A Cowboys team that was without Dak Prescott for 4 or 5 games was able to weather that storm, only lose 1 game, and sit here with a chance at a 1 seed potentially, right? I mean, we're sitting here with a bunch of these scenarios where the quarterback did get hurt or did go out or what have you, and the team is still dominant. So I know how important the quarterback position is. I get it. And Patrick Mahomes is the best of the best. I get it. But I think a good system has been able to prove that a quarterback's only as good as the system is, right? And Patrick Mahomes is probably in the best system he possibly could be in, with one of the biggest, most genius offensive minds in the game's history. And I'm not saying that doesn't affect the receivers, right? Like obviously Justin Jefferson's in a position he's in because he's in a system that allows him to run wide open most of the time. Yeah.
He's Cooper Kupp.
I get it. But, that's just a home fan here, like trying to get some more love for I need to see another Gritty,
I'm 100% with you. Like I think Justin Jefferson should be in the conversation, but I don't think it's a debate that he should win it over a Patrick Mahomes.
Sure. Well, more than likely, he at least wins Offensive Player of the Year. At least
like if Cooper Kupp can't get an MVP vote last year, where I think Rodgers played worse than what we're seeing from Mahomes this year, and Cooper Kupp's numbers, he put up 1,900 yards, 16 touchdowns. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like if Cooper Kupp can't even get a vote from a lesser MVP, like, and that's not to take away from Rodgers, even though I don't care about Rodgers, but like
Brady should
Rodgers
have MVP last year.
Sure, like Brady, but like either way, I don't think those 2 players are had a better season last year than what Patrick Mahomes is having this year, and he's going to win MVP. Right. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm saying, like, Justin Jefferson doesn't have the same stats as Cooper Kupp did last year. Now I think his impact is very much like right up there, or even probably slightly higher than what Cooper Kupp's was. But that's hard to say because they won the Super Bowl too. So, but
Sure.
it's a regular season award. And if JJ's like in the conversation again, I'll continue to say I think he should be in the conversation.
Awesome.
Wish the
Perfect.
touchdowns were a little higher though. That's the only thing. But,
yeah, that'd be nice. Awesome. Well, that's pretty much everything I want to cover tonight. Obviously, we have predictions here. We got Packers game. Dave, you want to come up from behind the screen here, so we can get yours in as well. I didn't get Matt's. I probably should have, but I forgot to. And of course, again, Matt's a much better host than I am. Everyone knows this. He gets the media guests.
You do a great
job.
All
that. He gets all that stuff going. So, but we toughed it through. Matt will be returning next week from his couple-week hiatus here. Happy to have him back. So, well, Dave, if you're able to make it back from back there, that'd be great. Perfect. All right, Myles, why don't we start with you here? Predictions for the Packers game. What do we got?
Oh, I hate predictions.
Me too.
I'm going to say 28-20. It's got to be a one-score game. 28-25, because we'll say that they had to go for 2 to get it back to get it within 3. Vikings.
Wow, look at that. All right, Dave, what do we got?
30-17 Vikings. This will be that convincing win. We'll do it twice this year in victories, and both times it will be against the Packers.
And would you say 30-17? So a 13-point win?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so let's see. Packers are favored by 3, and the over-under is 47. So it's probably going to be close to that. I'm going to go in a similar fashion to Myles. I don't think it's going to be a convincing win. I think we're going to eke one out here. By the way, I just hate this. I don't think I've bet against the Vikings all year, which I don't know. It feels wrong. It feels wrong to pick them every week, but I think I gotta do it again this week. I'm going to go.
They're 12-3. They're 12-3, so it's not like you've been like wrong.
Right, yeah.
Oh, and even one of those losses, he bet against them, and he won that one.
Who did? I didn't bet against them. Matt did.
I thought.
Yeah,
it was either the Dallas game or the Philly game.
I bet it for him actually, you're right. We all bet that Philly was going to win that game, so we are all correct in that. I think I could be wrong. Either way.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
I'm going to go 24-19. They're going to go for 2 to make it within 3. We're going to stop that, and we'll be 24-19.
Lene, I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Well, Dave, what do we have for the rest of the week?
We're supposed to have a Viking hot takes tomorrow night at 8:30. I have not heard from Flip. I've sent him a message. I don't know if he got lost with a little too much Christmas cheer. If not, the next one after that is 2 old bloggers, myself and Darren Campbell. We'll break everything down on Saturday afternoon at 4, our regular time. We have the 3 themes as usual. First theme, we're talking about the rookies late in the season, how they have blossomed or seem to have blossomed. Brian's favorite player of all, Brian Asamoah, is doing fantastic. He's one of them. We'll get into the second theme, which is about the Duke of Shelley, how the little short man has come out of nowhere and has earned himself a starting spot, in my opinion, at least for now. And then, of course, the third theme, we break down the Vikings at the Packers and how hopefully we will ruin Aaron Rodgers and all those cheeseheads' day.
Would love it. I did. Myles can vouch for this. When that strip fumble recovery by Asamoah happened, I always had my Asamoah shirt on, my shirtsy on underneath my Unreal sweatshirt, and I ripped that Unreal sweatshirt out, started pounding my chest. I was real hype. I was real hyped.
Hey, I like the way
It
he's
was
playing.
embarrassing.
He is
Yeah,
playing well.
even the people behind me were like, "Oh, he must really like that guy." Yeah, of course.
Ryan's wife was like, "Oh my god."
Oh yeah.
I married him.
She's like, "You did say he was going to make a big play today, and that you would do this." I'm like, "I told you, I told you." So, all right,
What do we say, guys?
Skull Vikes.
Goal.
Skull Vikings! Like, subscribe, and ring the bell, and feel free to rate us on your favorite aggregator. A big shout out goes to our partners, the Daily Norseman, where the best Vikings content can be found. To That's Badass Wood Art, when you're looking for something unique to brighten your space. And to Lake Monster Brewing, home of the best beer in Minnesota. Skol, everybody!